welcome to, I guess I'm going to call it a graphite techniques video. Today I had planned to do the landscape, and when I was making the video, I walked away for a minute and my cat Sam jumped up on the table and knocked everything over, and my landscape was ruined. So I'm going to have to start over so I can take you guys from the point we were at forward. And I don't have time to do that today. So what I thought I would do is show you something that I've been experimenting with, and something that I would like to use once our pair is finished after the next Graphite Techniques video and we start another graphite project. And what this is a way to get a colored background for our graphite drawings. And it's by using a monoprint technique. So monoprints are exactly what they say. They're a one-time print using some kind of surface to put our paint on, and then putting a piece of paper on, drawing paper on top of it, and rolling over it with our hands to make a print of what's on the plate. And I'm going to show you a few that I've made. This one was made on drawing paper with fluid acrylic and watercolor. So it's a fluid acrylic white paint and then watercolor mixed into it. This one was made with Yupo paper and watercolor on the print on the plate, so it gives a more sort of subtle effect. This one was also made with Yupo paper using watercolor. Yupo paper is wonderful to experiment with, so I highly suggest trying it sometime. But we can also use just regular drawing paper like this one. This one is just Stonehenge paper with making a print with watercolor on the plate. This one is watercolor with a little bit of white gouache added to it. You can see the beautiful textures I achieved. This one is using a brighter watercolor on the plate and using a regular Stonehenge paper to make the print. This is another one that's very subtle, but will make a beautiful background for a drawing, just watercolor on drawing paper. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. And basically what we need is some kind of plate. And what I did is I went to the local hardware store and I had them cut a piece of just regular old plexiglass. So I had them cut it to the size 9 by 12, which is the size of paper I use most often. And then I took a piece of very fine grit sandpaper and sort of sanded the entire surface as evenly as I could to sort of give it a little texture so the paint soaks into it better. And I also have a brayer, which you can use if you want to, if you have one. You don't need this, so I won't use it today, but it is kind of fun to play with to move the paint around the paper. And I have just a regular flat brush and then my watercolors. And so today I think what I'll do, I'm just going to use blue watercolor. This is from Earth Mineral Arts. I'm going to use this blue here, and then I'm going to use some titanium white with it. And I'm going to take my flat brush. Now, if you don't have plexiglass and you want to try this, you could try like a piece of cardboard covered with aluminum foil. You could try that. You could try a matte cutting board and just paint your painting on that and use that. But the plexiglass is inexpensive and it's a great tool to have. So I'm going to start with some paint. I don't want my brush sopping wet, but I want it wet enough to pick up the paint. And then I'm just going to lay the paint down on the plexiglass. So I'm just painting it in sort of a square shape, a rectangular shape, I should say. And you can see, because I roughed it up a little bit with sandpaper, the paint actually adheres. If you don't rub it with sandpaper, it won't do that. It'll just sort of pool up, okay? So once I have some of the blue paint down, then I'm going to take some of my titanium white And this is watercolor, but you could also use gouache or casein. And I'm going to put a little bit of the titanium white down. Okay, and I'm not putting it all over. I'm just sort of randomly putting it down on the paper. And every time you do this, you get a different effect, and that's what's so fun. And I have found that some work better than others, so I just do a bunch of them, and then what works, works, and what doesn't, doesn't. And that's pretty typical with anything when we're experimenting, doing something new. But what I've been doing is just sort of lightly misting, so it gives the paint an opportunity to spread around. And then I take my piece of drawing paper, this is just cut to about 5 by 7, and I lay it over. And then I use my hand to just smooth the paper on top of the paint. Just smooth it on. And then I take one corner of the paper and I lift it up, and it gives me this print, which is a beautiful dreamy background that doesn't crinkle or buckle the paper. Okay, so we get this beautiful dreamy background without sacrificing the quality of our paper for drawing later. Then I can also use a water mister and just maybe mist edges a little bit and let them run. And I can just let my paper, just kind of tilt it and let the paint run around. And then I would set this aside and let it dry completely. Once this is dry, like this one, I can use this to do a graphite drawing later. All right, so this is something I want you to play with, and I want you to come up with some different backgrounds. Of course, we can always just paint the background on a paper, but what I find exciting about this is that I get surprising results and textures. You can see the beautiful textures that I achieved on this that would be really hard to do with just a paintbrush and paint. Now, if I use a brayer on this, I still have paint left on this plate, and brayers are going to give us different textures altogether. And so I can do that, and you could also use a smooth glass, smooth like juice glass or something, and just roll it. But a brayer is an inexpensive tool that you can purchase on Amazon, and it's really fun. So I'm going to put another piece of paper on top. This is just Stonehenge paper, and I'm just rubbing it with my hand. Lift it up, and I get a very different effect. Okay, it's I didn't have as much paint on here, so it's very random and just textured with some interesting shapes already in it. Then I can also take water and spray this if I want. And just when it dries, it'll give me a completely different effect. Okay, so it's interesting because, for instance, this one that I did with watercolor, I used the brayer to roll it, and then I did my print, and then I sprayed it, and when it dried, I see this shape of a face here that I might use in my drawing. So we might see things in the way the paint dries, but we also might just use it as a background to draw an autumn leaf, which is my plan. So we're going to find a leaf outside and draw it onto our prepared background. So that's what I want you to practice with if you want to. Obviously, there's a lot of videos on here. You don't have to do them all. You don't have to choose to do every project. But this is a really fun way to get a random sort of intuitive and dreamy background for our graphite work after we finish our pear. So I want you to play with this and maybe do like 6 different versions. You can take a piece of paper and cut it or tear it into 5 by 7 sheets. And just regular drawing paper like Stonehenge or any kind of drawing paper. And just get six different versions that you can choose from when we're ready to do our project. So I hope this is fun. I apologize about the landscape. I'm pretty heartbroken about it. I got up early to do it because I have 3 events today, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do it this afternoon, but I wanted to get a video out to you. So over the weekend and the rest of the week, I will work on creating another landscape to get to the point where we are, and then we'll tackle that next week. All right, if you have any questions about this, please ask. But this is another fun way to try something intuitive that will also become a very realistic drawing. Okay, have a great day. Any questions, please ask, and I will see you all tomorrow with a dandelion lesson.